You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJing parties throughout Israel, birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music and DJ Venom will turn your event to the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
In Memphis, Tennessee, for Stax Records, for Booker T and the MGs. This is called Green Onion.
From the ISR Studios, it's Louis Live! Now here's your hosts, me and Raphael Geller. How you doing, Raphael?
What's up, Ari Louis? How are you doing?
Doing great. This might be our new theme song.
This is pretty cool.
It's a live version of 2009 of Booker T and the MG's Green Onion song. Want to give them credit for our theme song here on Louis Live. We have a great show. We're going to have Jim Williams at 6 o'clock local time and Jerry Coleman from ESPN in Baltimore.
Or Fox Sports.
Excuse me, Fox Sports,
Probably
Baltimore.
The same thing. They're all bought out by each other.
Right. And then at 5:30, we're going to be having on
Jerry Coleman.
Jerry Coleman.
Which hopefully he remembers who we are this time.
Yes, he does think we're a solicitor. And but right now, though, we're going to dial up our first guest of the evening. A big fan here at Israel Sportswear. We're a big fan of his work. He's a big fan of our work. And it's great because he remembers both our names, Raphael and Ari. And he likes to. He's our southern correspondent from the United States. There is so much to talk into. We're getting NHL playoffs kicking in the conference finals on the West, in the East, about to determine it. And NBA playoffs first round wrapping up. Some wrapped up already. Mavericks already been swept out of the first round. And there were 4 great games in the NBA last night that we'll get into. And baseball, of course, in its second month. So,
right, and we're going to talk about Josh Hamilton's monster 4 home run in 1 game.
And we'll talk about the NFL draft as well.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Am I speaking to Clenari Carter?
Hey, bro, what's up, man?
Clenari Carter, you're live on Louis Live and IsraelSportsRadio.com. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Great. Clenari, a lot of great stuff to talk about. We got to start off with the Atlanta Hawks Boston Celtics game last night. It was a classic. Before we get into it, I just want to ask you one question. How much did Al Horford return mean to this team?
Al Horford's return means everything right now to the Atlanta Hawks. If you notice, Kevin Garnett, within those first 3 games, he was brilliant. He was hitting everything, and they didn't really have a body that could go down in the post and actually line up with Kevin Garnett, therefore making Kevin Garnett the best center on the floor. But now with Al Horford being out there, he's a guy that can go down low and actually body up Garnett and challenge him down low in the post. Also, with him being healthy, I was a little shaky about that at first, worrying about, his health and how he would return, especially coming back off of that torn muscle. But yesterday, he was 8 from 15. He had, 19 points, 11 rebounds, 3 blocks.
Monster game.
That's a game, especially when you're talking about an elimination and having a guy come back that hasn't played all season. I mean, he played like the first 11 games, but being able to actually have him back there in that position really means a lot.
Absolutely, and as you mentioned, he was out, 4 months, something like that, a torn pectoral muscle. Huge, very big injury. A lot of the time in the NFL, when it happens to these defensive linemen, usually defensive players, it's usually also very, very big guys. It happens from working out too much, lifting too much. But usually they're out for the seasons. But he decided to come back, which I don't know if you remember, Clenari, but back when the Magic were in the finals, there was that whole controversy of whether they should play Jameer Nelson or not.
Okay, yes.
Right, and so it was just interesting to see what Larry Drew would end up doing. And Larry Drew, got to give credit to him. I think he did a really great job coaching last night, getting the team motivated, explaining to them, you're down 3-1, but we're going home. Let's defend our home court. We win the next game. You never know what could happen. And Al Horford's presence was just huge. I mean, this guy is great. Josh Smith had an off night as well, so you never know if he has a better night of shooting. Even Joe Johnson, Al Horford really carried this team. This team didn't even really play that well. But let's take it now on the other side of things. Rajon Rondo started off pretty slowly, but just by the third and fourth quarter, he was unstoppable. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say he's the best point guard in the NBA. That's really my opinion. Maybe not offensive scoring-wise, but just dishing the ball in steals and being a leader, a true point guard. I mean, Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook, I don't really think they're true point guards. They are point guards. I wouldn't call them shooting guards, but they're more guys who like to shoot. They like to come off the pick. But Rondo's the type of guy who's clutch. He can make that jump shot and he can dish really well. So you were watching the game live. I was watching the game live. Take us through that last what was it, about 20 seconds when Rondo made that huge steal. Were you a little surprised that he didn't pass the ball?
Honestly, yeah, but at the same time, he was on fire. So when you have that confidence going within yourself, and you're just trying to win, you're gonna try to do everything. And he went out there, and I feel like he produced at a level where I haven't necessarily seen him produce it. I mean, Rondo hit a 3 yesterday,
right?
And that's
rare.
Rondo hitting a 3, but if you guys look back, I believe it was the 2010 All-Star game between him and Kevin Durant, and they had it was like a small game of horse, and him and Durant were going back and forth on hitting outside 3-point shots, and that right there was amazing because nobody had ever seen Rondo display an offensive type of game. So after watching Rondo hit 6 3-pointers in a row,
right,
as I've seen him do in the past,
right,
I think that a lot of it has to do with his confidence.
Yeah,
I think that if he grabs some of that confidence, he can be a great offensive player.
That
I mean, call me crazy.
No, that's a great point because his first 2 years in the NBA were not that noteworthy. So. That is a great point. I think Danny Ainge helped him get some confidence. The Big Three, which now Ari Louis and I call the Big Four, right, Ari?
That's right.
We call him the Big Four because you can't call him the Big Three plus a guy who averages 12 assists a game. You can't do that. They're the Big Four. But yeah, I agree, and I don't know. Though I'm going to disagree with you, Clenari. Not necessarily disagree, but I really think you pass the ball to the Truth. Why would you take that shot? I know the Truth was having some knee problems or injuries and et cetera, blah, blah, blah. Or even KG. I mean, I don't know. He's not the guy who should take the last-minute shot. I think what happened, if you could tell our listeners more, did he try and cross over Al Horford, or what did he do to cause that turnover?
Well, if you remember, he lost control of the ball.
Okay.
Al Horford had switched over on the switch, which is something that you're supposed to do at the end of a game. You're supposed to actually keep the switch. So he stayed, and Al Horford did what he was supposed to do. Rondo, therefore, couldn't necessarily get around him to try to get to the hole or, try to penetrate to the basket. So when he tried to come back out, I believe he tried to come back towards the top of the key a little bit on the side. He lost control of the basketball. And when that right there happened, there was only, 3 seconds left in the game. Yeah. So you can't have, small ticky-tack things like that. Plus, having big Al Horford out there, he definitely was not about to take the last shot. I just couldn't see him having enough confidence to try to shoot over Al Horford. We're not talking about Ray Allen. So.
Right, and the great point in the post-game interview, Al Horford actually said it. He said, I didn't want Rondo. I didn't want to be the guy who everyone in Atlanta hated because they gave up the buzzer beater series over at home. And so he said his goal was to get Rondo to pass the ball, and in doing that, it caused a turnover. The game was over, 3-2. The Hawks have confidence. Marvin Williams kind of showed some flashes. Marvin was the guy who was drafted. Ari, you're the draft guy. What, 2, 3?
Number 2. That was with Andrew Bogut.
Right, Andrew Bogut. That was kind of a weak draft. Right, out of North Carolina, out of his freshman year, I believe.
Right, he didn't even start for that Carolina championship team. He was six man.
Six man on that team. But that kind of was a weak draft. Marvin was the guy who's never really developed into what people thought he would develop into.
I actually follow Marvin Williams. He's actually from Bremerton, Washington.
Right.
So I saw a lot of clips of his high school games. Now, in high school, he was very, very good.
Yeah.
But something happened. I don't know. His game did not necessarily, what's the word? His game hasn't elevated to that next level where, you guys are coming into the draft. You're not only drafting for right now, but you're drafting in projection as well. And he's not meeting that projection.
Yeah, of course. It's just weird. This team is full of a lot of young guys who have a lot of talent, but sometimes just don't. The Hawks are this team, for the last, 4 or 5 years, for a while they struggled. They really, really struggled. They couldn't make the playoffs. They weren't very good. Then they made the playoffs that first year. But since then, it's just been kind of this notion that they're never going to, they might win a first-round series, but they're not. We're never going to see the Hawks in the, Eastern Conference Finals, or even, I'm even going to say it, even the semi-final. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. There's a lot of talent. Joe Johnson, for the money he's getting paid, kind of curious to hear what you think about that, Clenari. Do you think his salary and his contract is worth of how he's playing? It seems he seems to struggle sometimes in big moments, and he's scared to shoot the ball and he misses it. So what do you think about his huge contract and his contribution to the Hawks?
Well, his huge contract, I believe, is not reminiscent of his skills at all.
Right.
And most of the time when we say that, we're talking about somebody that's not getting paid enough and it's not necessarily matching their skill set. Now, with Joe Johnson, it's the other way around. He's getting paid he's getting paid way too much based on his skills. He's a good player, and that's what he is. He's good. He's not great. He shouldn't be the number one paid player in the NBA. He's not great. He shouldn't be getting paid more than, LeBron and Wade, and, he shouldn't even be in that category.
No, and no. And, you could argue, Clenari, that there's guys like Josh Smith when he plays well. He's one of the best defenders in the league. Even Al Horford's contribution to this team, you could argue that on some nights he's way more important than Joe Johnson, because Joe Johnson's not the greatest defender. He's not the greatest. He's a good shooter. He's a very good spot-up shooter. You can't pass the ball. He's not very. He's a good shooter. He's a very good shooter. And
he can't create his own shot.
Passing yesterday.
Right. Yeah. Yesterday he shot the ball very poorly, but so did Josh Smith. But Al Horford was the reason they won. 11 rebounds, 19 points, coming back from a pectoral muscle. I think he played in Game 4. Yeah, he did. He told the team, the TNT network, that he was very sore after Game 4 and wasn't even sure if he'd play. And then in the interview, he thanked the massage therapist, which you notice, Ari, I don't know if a lot of guys are starting to do that in those post-game conferences. They're starting to thank not the doctors, not the physical therapists, but the massage therapists.
Why not?
Yeah,
I feel great after a massage.
Everyone feels great.
Any ladies listening?
Mm-hmm.
Ari Lou, Sweet Daddy Lou.
Anyway, let's keep it PG-13.
There's a massage therapist actually. We're doing the ISR studios. We're broadcast from right the floor above us. So it actually is a massage therapist.
Interesting. Anyway,
I'll give them a visit.
Yeah, maybe we'll give them a visit.
I can thank her on the show then. See.
Right. Yeah.
So that makes sense. They know what they're doing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay. But yeah, Clenari, can this team come back? Do the Hawks have a chance to win the series, or is this going to end in Boston?
Honestly, I had the Atlanta Hawks slated as beating the Celtics in the first round. The reason is because I think that their youth, they're a lot younger,
A lot
Not
younger.
only that, but we're talking about an Atlanta Hawks team that's also a lot wiser than their first playoff appearance when they played the Big Three, when they played Boston, and they took them to, I believe, what was it, a 7-game series
Yeah.
in the first round.
Right.
So when you look at the two, Boston is a little older, so they came back a little bit. And I would think that Atlanta, being able to be a little bit wiser and still in their prime, most of their players, I would think that they would actually be able to step up to the plate and take care of the Celtics. The only issue I really had was the fact that they had got down 3-1. I think that if it would have been a 2-2 split, then I would definitely stay with the Hawks. But right now, being down 3-2 and heading back to Boston, if they're going to lose, it's going to be in 6. If they win, it's going to be in 7. So, I don't see Boston winning a Game 7 in Atlanta. So, prediction, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. We won't put you on the spot, but I mean that. What was up with the last performance in Game 4? I mean, the game was over at halftime. Why didn't the Hawks show up? What happened there? I mean, could you give us some perspective maybe on why it was not even I turned the game off at halftime. It was done. It was over.
A lot of that, I think, sometimes it's chemistry, and sometimes it's just, hey, our bodies just feel beaten up. You had Al Horford trying to come out there, and you would have thought that would have gave those guys a spark in Game 4. Then on top of that, Josh Smith was trying to return off of his injury. Sometimes you could be mentally beat up. And I think that for that game, they were mentally beat up. Now, they were able to actually get it together, and Al Horford was able to actually come out and play, and Josh and everybody last night. And it's a little bit of a different type of game. They're kind of trusting each other a little bit more now, And yes, I understand there was only one game, but at the same time, that trust and not playing with each other, that could be a big factor.
Right. No, that's a really great point. And I mean, Al Horford is playing well. Think about if Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson, that was weird. If Joe Johnson can, I forgot his name because he's not even worthy. He's not. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Joe. I'm kidding. You're still an all-star, but you're not a great all-star, but you're an all-star.
Yeah, he's a good player.
He's a good player. He's a good player, but I don't think he's a top 10 player. He's probably top 20.
Yeah.
He's definitely top 20, but not top 10. But back to my point, if he shoots the ball 50%, and Josh Smith also shoots the ball around there 40, 50%, not in the 30% like they shot last night, and Al Horford comes back with that monster effort, and Paul Pierce is having those issues with his knee, which it seems like he's had those issues now for the last 3 years. You never know. You really never know. And it's going to be very exciting. A lot of people on our show last night when Ari and I were previewing the playoffs for last night, let's be honest, Ari, we didn't give any chance to the Hawks. We both agreed the Celtics would be done. We said the prime game of the night would be the Bulls and the 76ers, and the Bulls pulled it off. You predicted that.
I had that, yeah.
I had the 76ers. But it's cool, though, because you see all the Mavericks sweep. It was boring. I mean, the Thunder beat the Mavericks, and it was boring. You want to have close games. So
By the way, when you have the play-by-play guy of the Celtics, what do? Pick against them?
That's true. We had the we had the play-by-play guy of the Celtics, so we can
had to go with the
and you know what the funny part, Ari, is we I love your laugh, Clenari. I'm not gonna lie to you. I love your laugh. It makes me smile. Awesome. But we're having the play-by-play guy of the Hawks next week. So Bob Rathburn, I think, if you know who that is, Bob.
Hopefully, who do we root for now?
I don't know.
They're still in the playoffs?
I don't know. We got to be loyal. If we hope they're still in the playoffs.
Both teams, it's hard.
And we're having the PA announcer of the Celtics, the guy who does the stuff in the stadium. So we're gonna have to decide.
Go for the green and red.
Right, right. We're gonna have to pick some loyal. I'm gonna talk about one game with you in Eastern Conference, and Ari, I think, is going to talk to you about the Lakers game. Right, Ari?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a lot of talk about the Lakers game.
Okay, so I'm going to talk 2 minutes, and I'm going to let Ari close out with you for Lakers game. Let's talk about this Philly Bulls game. The Bulls came out strong-ish, I guess you could say. A lot of energy, in Chicago. They don't want the series to end. I mean, it's kind of silly because I really hope the 76ers win, because if the Bulls make it, they're not going to win the next series. They're too burnt out. Well, you never know, actually. I shouldn't say that. If Noah comes back healthy, I mean, they still people, they don't have Derrick Rose, but if Noah comes back healthy, this still is a very good team. Kyle Korver, Luol Deng, who would probably be an all-star if he was on another team. Luol Deng's one of those guys that he's not an all-star because he's on the Bulls that have so many deep players. But if he was on the Bobcats or the Warriors or the Bucks, I would say he'd probably be an all-star. He'd give 22 points, 6-7 rebounds a game. Very talented guy out of Duke, out of England and Sudan.
He was an all-star.
Right, he's been an all-star.
Well, yeah.
Right, but not lately though, right?
It was
2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm just saying that because you have Luol Deng and Carlos Boozer, and those two should still be able to, come up with something kind of like they did last night.
Exactly.
Versus a team that has no all-star whatsoever.
Wow, that was so you're saying, Clara, you're saying that Spencer Hawes is not an all-star player?
That's my dude.
From Washington. He's your man from the Huskies. Got to give some Husky love. For our listeners out there, Clinari is from Seattle, I think born and raised at least. So he's a huge Washington Husky fan. He always has the inside scoop on what Washington Huskies basketball. So that's why I made that joke with him about Spencer Hawes. But you're right. I mean, Evan Turner is not an all-star. Wait, hold on. Andre Iguodala is not an all-star?
Not in my book.
Not in your book.
Not with the way he plays night in and night out. He's been an all-star, but Luol Deng was an all-star for the 2011-2012 season. So the more up-to-date all-star is Luol Deng.
Also, I'll tell you, Luol Deng's secret weapon was he came here to Israel. He played for the English national team because he is of English origin. Right. And he came here, he came with the team, but he didn't play. It was against his contract, so he had to sit. But I was at a game where he was there. Nice gentleman. So I think that was the secret to success. And after that, became an all-star.
Exactly. Coming to Israel just makes everyone an all-star. Yeah. Everyone should come to Israel.
We've sent a lot of people out to become all-stars. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Yeah, you got to come, man.
Anyway, real quick, wrapping it up. So 76ers games going back to Philly. It's going to be a really good environment there. You know the 76ers want a win. They're an A seed. Doug Collins is a great coach. A lot of young guys, a lot of passion. Drew Holiday, Evan Turner. I mean, there's a lot of young guys on that team. Lou Williams, who's actually a lot of people have been mentioning Spencer Hawes, Iguodala, and Evan Turner, but Lou Williams leads the team in points, which even shows how weird this team is. And Lou Williams, Clinari, you're the type of guy who would know this. Lou Williams is a guy out of high school, right?
He was a guy that came. Lou Williams, I'm not too familiar with his background.
I'm pretty sure he's from Atlanta. I'm pretty sure he's from Atlanta. That's why I asked, and he went.
Yeah, he's from Atlanta.
Yeah, so
I do know that he's from Atlanta, but as far as high school, I think he came straight out of high school and that he never went to college. I want to say he's a high school player that went to the NBA.
Right. I think you're right. Anyway, so let's just finish it with this before we move on to Ari Louis. Do the Bulls have a chance to win 3 games in a row and move on to face the Pacers, I believe?
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
The reason why I say that they do is because the 76ers beat them 3 times in a row, and that just lets you know how thrown off they were. The Chicago Bulls team went, 18-9 during the season without Derrick Rose.
Right.
They kind of faltered towards the end. But I think they have enough weapons as Luol Deng and Boozer because these games that they're playing are played at a low-scoring type of tempo. So if you can get Luol Deng and Boozer 24 points, 19 points, if both of those guys could contribute 40 points, and you're only averaging really around 75 to about 80, if they can get half of the offense from those two, and those other point guards like
Earl
Watson,
right,
and those guys could, kind of wake up a little bit, then, yeah, I think that this can definitely turn back into the favor of the Chicago Bulls, especially if Noah comes back.
Right, I just wanted to correct myself. They will be playing the winner of the Hawks-Celtics. I made a mistake there. The Pacers will be playing the Heat, of course. Connor, you should know that you should have corrected me immediately because you know that my Pacers are going to beat the Heat.
I'm laughing with you, Clodari.
Yeah.
No, it's not happening.
Anyway, here's Ari Louis to talk some smack talk by Andrew Bynum, right?
Yeah, we only are wrapping up with, excuse me, I'm saying that wrong. We are speaking with Clodari Carter right now, a few minutes more in this segment. Clodari, Andrew Bynum is an idiot. Mark Spears, who we had on the program a while ago, wrote a great article on Yahoo, and I have the article right here, and Andrew Bynum said, quote, closeout games are actually kind of easy, end quote. Teams tend to fold if you come out and play hard in the beginning. Well, what's he thinking?
You see, it wasn't like he was necessarily lying, but at the same time, that's not something that you come out and you say. You don't give the other team bulletin board material to come into a game hyped. What you want to do is use that as an element of surprise. So you want to come out in that first quarter and come out and knock these guys out. And most of the time, if a team is on the slump and they're on the ropes, so you can come out early and put that heat on them, then most of the time they will fold. But that's an element of surprise. That's not something that you go out and you start talking to the media about. You don't go to the Los Angeles Times and the New York Times and start talking. You don't go to ESPN and Sports Illustrated and say, hey, look, this is what I think. No, what you want to do is you want to go in here and knock these guys out like they should have did last night. You want to go in there and knock these guys out in Game 5, and then after that you might want to say something. But you don't do that.
Yeah, basically George Karl, the coach of the Nuggets, said to an assistant coach, did you put that, he's the video coordinator, Nate Anderson, did you put that at the end of the film? So basically the Nuggets players sat there, they watched game film practice in preparation for the game. At the end, they saw Andrew Bynum said, closeout games are actually kind of easy. Teams tend to fold. You come out and play hard in the beginning. And Ty Lawson said that helped them. It said it gave them fuel and motivation to win the game.
Right.
So all the Nuggets players looked at each other and said, let's go. So
and they did.
Andrew Bynum making a big mistake with that quote.
Again, I mean, this guy.
He's done a lot of stupid things the past couple years.
Yeah, and he's only 25, right? 26.
And he is young, but he's won 2 titles, and you figured that attention, that experience will make him more mature. All right, Clodari, we got to run, but before we do, please give a plug so all the fans out there can read your work.
Yes, I am. If you guys can go to jmcsportsbook.blogspot.com, you can go there. You can read all of my blogs and all of my thoughts. I like to say. Also, with Israel Sports Radio,
that's right.
There is a blog portion, and if you go to that blog portion, you should go on ahead and find JMC Sportsbook there as well. The JMC stands for Just Make It Count, because with every opportunity, we got to go out there and put our best foot forward and make it count. So I appreciate you guys. Ari, thank you, sir.
Yes, our pleasure.
Brother over there.
Yeah, that's right.
I like you guys, man. I really, really appreciate it. You guys make me feel like family every single time I come on the show, every single time me and Ralphie talk. I really, really appreciate it, and thank you.
Absolutely, Clary. We appreciate
Clary.
it. Thank you so much for being on. Louis live at IsraelSportsRadio.com. All right, that was Clodari Carter. We're going to take a break. And,
Gotta love Clodari.
Yeah, he's great.
He's the man.
He's the man. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, Jerry Coleman from The Fan. You're listening to
In
Louis.
Baltimore.
In Baltimore. You're listening to Louis live at IsraelSportsRadio.com. And while...
Right, and Jerry Coleman's going to talk to us about the...
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed frequent flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJing parties throughout Israel, birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music and DJ Venom will turn your event into the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back here on Louis Live, our thanks to Clenary Carter, our ISR Southern correspondent. And now we're going to be dialing up.
Hello.
Hi, is this Jerry Coleman?
Who's this?
This is Ari Louis from Louis Live and Israel Sports Radio. No, we're not soliciting.
How are you?
We're doing great. It's great to have you back on the show. We had so much great talk from last time, great feedback from when you were on, so it's fun to have you back on. Go ahead, Raphael.
I appreciate you having me back on. You know, when I answer the phone, it says an unknown number, so that's why I answer with the mysterious, who am I speaking to?
Well,
no, absolutely, we understand.
It's always funny, we understand. Jay, it's Raphael. Thank you for joining us. It's great to have you on because a big night in Baltimore sports last night, not necessarily for the Baltimore team, but Josh Hamilton, 4 home runs, a double against your Orioles. I don't know if they're your Orioles, but I know you cover the Baltimore teams. Baltimore having the best record in baseball, I believe, last night, or one of the top records. Josh Hamilton now is hitting over 400. What are your thoughts from that monster 4-home run game?
Remarkable performance, and I was lucky enough to be there for last night, although I have to tell you, I understand the Oriole fans cheering for this guy and showing their appreciation, and he showed it back to them, but I thought it was a little over the top for the Oriole fans to be cheering for the opponent to hit his 4th home run. But still, it was a memorable night. 16th time in the history of the game it's been done, but hasn't been done in a long time, since 2003. So it does happen on a very rare occasion. But to me, the big question is, why were you still pitching to Josh Hamilton after he had hit his first 3 home runs? Maybe you just walk him at that point.
Right, that's a great point. And you know, Buck Showalter is actually known for being a smart manager, so who knows what he was thinking. And
But this is, by the way, Buck Showalter is a guy that walked Barry Bonds with the bases loaded in 1999.
Exactly.
Okay, so he is not scared of walking someone. I don't know why. I agree with you 100%. I don't know why he didn't walk Josh Hamilton. I don't know what he was thinking. 4 white balls, Buck.
That was brought up after the game, Buck. What were you thinking, when he came up to the plate for the 5th time? Were you really going to have Darren O'Day pitch to him? And sure enough, he did, and sure enough, he had his 4th home run over the center field wall. All of them were with Elvis Andrews there on base, so all of them were 2-run shots. He set the American League record for total bases in 18, and, now it's the majors in home runs with 14. And, he's had his off-the-field troubles in the past, and that's the secret to anyone. But when this guy is on, he's as good as anyone in the game.
right, I believe he was the number 1 pick in 1999 and then struggled with the alcoholism for years. I mean, I know he was on Tampa and the Reds, and he just had so many problems. And then he found Jesus. Let's put it in a nice way. He found Jesus. He found religion. I think his wife, I've read a lot of articles, his wife has really helped him. And you know what, Jerry, let's not forget that whole thing last year with him tossing the baseball to the young man who had his son with him, who was a firefighter, and he fell over and he died. I know that was also very hard on Josh. So the guy's been through a lot, and then what was it, a week before the season or a little before the season, he had a relapse with the drinking.
Yeah, in a nightclub with someone who wasn't his wife.
Right, that's a no-no. That's a mistake. But I mean, he had a press conference where he apologized. I don't know what happened with it, but I think it's great. I mean, he's a good guy. You want to root for him. That's what America is, getting second chances and believing in someone that they can overcome all the stuff they've been through. Because it wasn't just alcohol, it was drugs, from what I understand. It was really a lot of stuff, gambling. And the cool part about it is a lot of those guys don't make it, right, Jerry? A lot of those guys just sink and you never hear from them again. But he decided to find a way to make it work. It was religion for him. That's a great thing. That's not a bad thing. Whatever whatever can help you. And he's hitting 406 now, a month into the season, 14 home runs, as you mentioned. And Texas is doing great. So congrats to Josh Hamilton.
You're right. It's a great story. And you look at all the guys that have battled substance abuse problems over the years and haven't made it back. I mean, Doc Gooden, Strawberry's career cut short by usage. We've seen it with guys like Lenny Dykstra as well in baseball and in other sports. Ryan Leaf is going back to jail. There's a guy that had a problem with painkillers and such. And, Josh Hamilton has had to overcome a lot of obstacles to get where he is right now. And last night he made the headlines around the country for what he did here in Baltimore. That was a lead story everywhere.
Right, and the thing that was unfortunate about it, though, is so many great games in the NBA and NHL playoffs. Ari's going to get into in the NHL playoffs in a few minutes, but it's just kind of.
And I'm headed to a game tonight, Game 6 in D.C. between the Capitals and Rangers.
Right, and we're going to get into that with you in a couple of minutes, but we want to stick with baseball before we get into that. Yesterday, we had someone on who was at that Ranger game. I believe, we had a guy, our correspondent from New York, who was at the Ranger game, said it was the most amazing experience when the Rangers scored, and of course in overtime when they won. But let's say with baseball, the Orioles. I know you're in Baltimore, 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore. So I mean, you're on every day. Are a lot of people calling in and saying, "Wow, this team is the best record in baseball through 35 games"? Is there buzz in Baltimore?
It's been a bit of a running debate because we have seen this movie before here in Baltimore where the Orioles have gotten off to a very hot start in April and early May and faded and ended up losing close to 100 games. So they come off a 5-1 road trip in which they went to Boston and New York where they only won 5 times all of last year combined. So they've already matched that here in the early goings of the season. But they come back home and only 11,000 fans show up at Camden Yards on Monday night to see this team after a 5-1 road trip, best record in the majors, and Texas just takes it to them. They scored 24 runs in the last 2 games, but the fans have not been there. So, you'll hear them on the talk shows talking about the optimism, but you don't see them at the stadium. They've had 11,000 the last 2 nights, and that's disgraceful, in my opinion, for a team that coming into this series had the best record in the major leagues and was playing outstanding baseball.
Right, great point. And it's not even like you can make the silly argument that Camden Yards isn't beautiful. It's a great.
No, they're celebrating their 20th anniversary this year, putting up statues of all their Hall of Fame players. Frank Robinson had his, Jim Palmer, Brooks Robinson, Earl Weaver, Cal Ripken, Eddie Murray, etc. So the ballpark's as beautiful as ever. They just have to get the product inside the ballpark to match the beauty of the park itself, and that's what they're trying to accomplish. And yeah, gotten off to a nice start, but I don't start paying attention to the standings until we get into June, really.
Right, I remember talking to you about that last time. And of course, I'm a huge Jays fan, the family being in Toronto. We deal with that almost every year. A couple of years ago, we had the best, or we were number one in the AL East through July. And that was the year we had Scott Rowland, and things were really well. I think it was the last year we had Halladay. I don't really remember. But by August, we were in third place, as usual. So that was frustrating. Next, let's kind of talk a little bit about the Nationals. I know you're more of a Baltimore guy, but I know you can talk anywhere. So I want to examine that dumb play by Cole Hamels of plunking Bryce Harper and then admitting it. I mean, even everyone in the Philly management was upset at him for admitting it. Like, it's perfectly fine if that's how you feel, but keep it inside. Telling that to the media after the game, and knowing that it's going to be all over SportsCenter, all over every media outlet in the country is just stupid. And this is a guy that you expect more. He got suspended, but I mean, it's kind of a silly suspension theoretically because it only pushes his start back a day. So it's not really.
It's a slap.
Right.
It's a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
It was idiotic for him to say that, and I agree. It's a longer suspension. Here we are in the U.S. talking all about safety in sports with the concussions. Here you have Cole Hamels drilling Bryce Harper between the numbers in the back to teach him a lesson. That's how you can severely hurt a opposing player.
Absolutely.
And I think it should have been dealt with in a more severe fashion because, as we know, a 5-game suspension for a pitcher is nothing. All you do is push the start back one day, and he barely misses a turn. So it really doesn't have any effect except on his reputation, where he looks like a fool for admitting it.
Absolutely, and not only that, but, I hate to say, but maybe he's happy. He gets to be with his family for a couple of days. Doesn't have to go to the ballpark and sit in the outfield with all the pitchers. So it's kind of like
It's like suspend a kid from school.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, yay.
Yeah, he's probably, I bet he's really going to miss, sitting in the outfield, talking to other pitchers and watching the game. He does it 162 games a year. I'm sure 5 games being at home with his wife. I think he has a wife. And his family, that's probably exciting for him. So, but of course, basically, MLB had to do something. They couldn't not do anything. But I think it should have been, maybe a 10-game suspension. Make him miss a start in the rotation because that could cost his team. I mean, pushing it back is really not a big deal. You can call a guy up from AAA. You can, there's a lot of things you can do.
It's gutless to me. I have always said this. When a pitcher throws at a batter, it's just gutless, unless they're going to get in there in the batter's box and face that guy. And they do that in the National League, but Cole Hamels wasn't going to be facing Bryce Harper. So, I thought it was a gutless act. I always do. And then when you come out and admit it, that's just foolish. You say the ball slipped out of my hands with a little wink and a nod. I've seen that happen in person many a times when I know the pitcher was purposely throwing at the batter. You just don't come out and openly admit it the way Cole Hamels did.
Not only that, but I actually watched it. It was kind of one of those things where he was in the locker room and there was about 3 guys around him. He had his shirt off. It was one of those things that maybe he didn't even know that would be such a big deal, but he was kind of laughing about it. He was like, oh, yeah, I hit him. It's not a big deal. Just welcome him into the majors. But I don't think he realized, or who knows, it kind of makes you question his intelligence, maybe. I don't know if that's fair to say, but
I would question it. I would question it after a comment like that. This wasn't his first, he's not a rookie. When they open the locker room doors and reporters come in with tape recorders and microphones and cameras, some of that stuff is going to be quoted and picked up by the media. That's part of the reason they're there.
Right, and you know what? Let's look at the other side of things. It's kind of crazy that the guy who's 19 handled it in a better way. He didn't say anything after the game. He said it's part of baseball. He actually praised Cole Hamels by saying he's a great, talented pitcher. This guy's 19. That's really amazing. He had the maturity to do that. I know he has a lot of attention on him, but still, you got to give him credit. And not only that, that's what he did after the game, but during the game, he stole home.
Yep. Well, he's got to walk a fine line, though, because he is developing a reputation.
Right.
He blew a kiss to a pitcher last year in the minor leagues after hitting a home run. He said some things that probably a rookie shouldn't say. He threw his helmet off, circling the bases, which is kind of disrespectful in the large unwritten rule book of Major League Baseball. I can't keep track of all the unwritten rules, but there are many, and he's apparently violated a few. And he's had a talk from Davey Johnson and some of the veterans on his team to reel it in a bit, and I think he's learning to adjust. But, you know, Pete Rose came into the major leagues with this type of enthusiasm, and we're hearing a lot of comparisons to Charlie Ussel and Bryce Harper.
Right, and I mean, the sky's the limit. The guy's 19 years old, had a great start, but you never know. I remember it was either you or Jim Williams who we talked about this. No, it was Jim. I remember Jim saying, you know, he had a good, 4 or 3 games, but you never know. I mean, you need to judge him by the end of the season. You can't. He definitely has talent. No one's going to argue that, but you never know. Things happen, especially in baseball. A lot of guys who are drafted in the first round don't make it. We'll see. We'll be able to judge him better in a couple of years once he's been in the league for a couple of years. But still, I wanted to ask the last thing before we move to hockey. Right now you're really in the hub of baseball because the Nationals are playing great in the National League. I guess we just examined more of the Orioles, and now you said there's no one going to the games. But is that exciting for you as being, you're in the media in that area? Are you excited about this, that there's finally some success in the Baltimore, D.C. area in baseball?
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. There is some sense of excitement, but again, it's kind of early right now. I think the Nationals have a lot more promise this year with the roster and staff they put together than the Orioles. And Davey Johnson even went on record in saying, if we don't make the playoffs, I shouldn't be here. So we'll see how that plays out. The Orioles, they got a lot of weaknesses in their lineup, in their pitching rotation, much more than the Nationals. So I would say the outlook right now, as things stand, is brighter for D.C. than it is for the Orioles.
Especially with the Phillies having Ryan Howard and Chase Utley out, and the Marlins just really struggling. I don't know if anyone really expected it to be this bad. And with the AL East, it's hard. You know that at some point, it's as a Blue Jay fan, this is what happens. The Red Sox always struggle, and then from August to September, they're going to win 20 games out of 30, and then suddenly they're going to be in the chase for the wild card. It's just the way it is. Same with the Yankees. It's just the way it is. It's a horrible thing to look forward to or to wish will happen, but it's just what happens every year. Like you said, I don't think the Orioles, I'm not even sure my Jays will be able to keep in pace with all those. Even the Rays. The Rays have the best record right now in the AL East. I didn't even mention them. So much talent, very young team. But anyway, that was great talking baseball. Here's Ari Louis to talk some Caps.
Yes, Jerry, this series is really amazing. Now, I know the Capitals had to spend a lot of gas beating the defending champions in 7 games, but the Rangers have also had to spend a lot of gas with their first-round series. And here we are in this series, 5 games in, and we have 2 triple overtime games. Not 1, but 2. So I didn't know where to begin the series. What's been your take so far about the first 5 games?
Well, they've all been nip and tuck. I mean, they've all been 1-goal games. It's just amazing how close and tight they have been. I was at that 3 overtime game last week, and I started doing reports at 7:40 at night and wrapped up at 12:20 in the morning. So it was one of the longer nights of my sports broadcasting career. But it's been great hockey, and there's nothing like playoff hockey in person. The Verizon Center is going to be rocking tonight, and if the Caps don't win, then the Rangers are moving on to face the New Jersey Devils. So we'll see. I think the Caps do win tonight and force a Game 7. The goaltending has been exceptional on both sides, whether it be Lundqvist or the rookie Holtby, who, has lost more games than Lundqvist, but he's been equally as good. And that's what you need at this time of the year. A hot goaltender is going to take you a long way in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Okay, now I know we're not there yet, but the Capitals can win tonight and then win on Saturday, and then they would go on to face the Devils. How do you like your team against the New Jersey Devils in the Eastern Conference Finals?
That would be tough. Martin Brodeur is back once again. He's an ageless wonder. It's going to be tough for the Capitals, though, to win this series, to be honest with you. That would require them winning 2 Game 7s on the road. They already did it in Boston. Can they do it in New York? We'll have to see. But losing that game the other day was such a heartbreaker. To give up a goal with under 7 seconds remaining in regulation, that just doesn't happen in hockey. We see buzzer beaters in basketball and bottom of the 9th inning home runs in baseball and Hail Mary passes in football. You barely see a buzzer beater in the sport of hockey. And then to allow the Rangers to tie it up and then win it so early into overtime was so deflating for this team. But they've shown in the past that they can recover after the 3 overtime loss. They come back and they win the next game at home. Game 4 against the Rangers, everyone was already counting them out.
Yeah, again, this has just been a phenomenal series. I mean, not only you have 2 triple overtime games, but every single game except game 1 was decided by 1 goal, and game 1 was 2 goals. So, and
right.
It's all been low scoring. The highest output we've had is 3 goals. Again, aside of the great goaltending, as you mentioned, I'm really looking forward tonight. It's going to be 7:30 local time, Eastern time here in Israel. That will be 2:30 in the morning. So those in Israel, if you're going to stay up for a game, this is one of the games you definitely want to stay up and watch. I want to now. I know this is not where Washington plays, but I want to go to the Western Conference because my Coyotes are in against the Kings, and the Kings have only lost 1 game in the postseason. They're red hot, even though they're the 8th seed. So, what are your thoughts about the Coyotes and Kings Western Conference Finals?
Well, that's going to be very interesting because Los Angeles is loaded right now. They got the Clippers and the Lakers still alive in the NBA playoffs. The Kings have come alive, I think, for the first time since Wayne Gretzky left the franchise. And as you mentioned, they were the 8th seed. They've already upset the top seed. And I don't know how many people on the East Coast are going to pay attention to it because I don't think a lot of people know about the Kings or the Coyotes. And I'll tell you, the worst nightmare for the NHL would be a Phoenix, New Jersey Stanley Cup final. I couldn't see that garnering any type of ratings whatsoever.
Well, not just that. I mean, Phoenix is on the verge of potentially moving. They don't have the ownership in yet. There is a tentative deal out there to save the team. But how embarrassing would it be for the NHL to have the Coyotes win the Stanley Cup and then move because they can't afford to be there and no one can buy the team?
That would be humiliating. You would think the people in Arizona would then step up and make the team have to stay there. I mean, they had been there for quite some time. It didn't work under Wayne Gretzky when he was in charge. But now they're in the Western Conference Finals, and you're going to abandon the city? That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, we had Dave Kane on a few months ago, one of the assistants with the Coyotes, and he actually was on record on my show saying that if the Coyotes leave Phoenix, he would not join the team because he loves it there. I grew up in Phoenix, so I certainly know what the athletes and coaches are talking about. It's just a great place to live and work, especially as a professional athlete. You get a lot of quiet time. You get people that will show respect. I want to switch gears last couple minutes with you, go to the NBA. Bulls get a big win last night, stave off elimination. And they have some confidence because they can win without Derrick Rose. They have an above 500 record without Derrick Rose. And that game in a few days, what do you see with the Bulls and the 76ers?
I think the Bulls are going to eventually lose this series because of the fact they don't have Derrick Rose. And I know that they've done okay with him not being there. But let's face it, this is the reigning MVP. This is the point guard of this team. When he went down, there goes their season. I thought they were going to present the biggest challenge to the Miami Heat here in the Eastern Conference. And because of the loss of Derrick Rose, it just doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. I know Noah's been banged up as well. So it looks like an easy road for the Miami Heat to the NBA Finals. I have them meeting the San Antonio Spurs and the Spurs winning.
Wow. The Spurs, I'm a huge Spurs fan. They have arguably the best bench in the NBA. They can go. Are you, Jerry?
Oh, yeah, no, I just had someone talk to me. He didn't know I was on live radio. Sorry.
It's okay. No, but like you were saying, I love the Spurs pick. Their bench is so deep. They have sometimes Boris Diaw as the number 5 guy coming off the bench. I mean, this team is loaded with young talent. Leonard from San Diego State. They got a good guy from Texas, and Patty Mills from a great team. So I like the prediction. The next thing the last thing I want to talk to you, the last question. You are a huge Ravens guy. You're a Ravens insider. You cover the Ravens a lot. Terrell Suggs just said yesterday he just had his surgery to repair his torn Achilles, and he keeps telling the media repeatedly over and over again, I will be back. He will be playing this year. It's great. It'd be great to get your perspective on that since you're a Ravens insider. So can you tell us a little bit more about, do you agree with Terrell? Is he going to be back?
Yes. I've exchanged texts with Terrell over the last week. He is going to do his first radio interview with me, as he promised, so hopefully he'll stay true to that. But he did undergo successful surgery yesterday, at least according to the Ravens. I've never seen a team put out a statement saying so-and-so underwent unsuccessful surgery. So according to the Ravens, it went well. And he believes, via text to me, that he will be back by the end of November. I think that's wishful thinking, but if it's not a full tear of the Achilles, then that potential exists for him to return. They just drafted a kid out of Alabama by the name of Courtney Upshaw. They have a rookie minicamp coming up this weekend. He's going to have to step it up here with Terrell Suggs out, as will someone else like a Paul Kruger. But they're hopeful that he can be back and make an impact on this team before the season's over. They desperately need him. The guy's the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. There has been some debate as to how the injury occurred. Did it happen? He claimed it happened during a practice, a conditioning drill. There are those that think it happened while he was playing basketball, which could be a violation of his contract. But I will say this. The Ravens have a basketball court at their facility. So it would be hypocritical for them to try and take away his money or punish him for playing basketball when on their very own property they have a basketball court where they encourage players to participate.
I mean, yeah.
That would be pretty weird.
That's a good point. I remember something like that happened with Monte Ellis a few years ago, but it wasn't on the Warriors facility, and he got in a lot of trouble with the contract. I believe he tore a couple ligaments in his ankle, so that was a big thing. Sorry I said last question, but this will be the last question. I don't know if we talked about this with you, Jerry, but a couple weeks ago, and maybe who knows, maybe even was on your station, Joe Flacco made some really weird, controversial comments about how he thinks he's one of the best, if not the best, quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's elite, and et cetera, et cetera. What was that about?
It came out wrong. Joe was just asked a simple question about his confidence level, and he just said he thinks he's the best in the NFL. Was it an over-the-top comment? Indeed. He's not the best quarterback in the NFL. He's going to have to go out there and prove it. And with Terrell Suggs being out, there's going to be more of an emphasis on the offense producing with him not there. But, you know, he took a lot of flack, no pun intended, and a lot of heat for those comments. He said similar type things in the past, not realizing the magnitude of it, because that story just blew up nationally with him declaring that he's the best, never has won a Super Bowl or gone to a Pro Bowl. But all he was doing was trying to simply answer a question and show that he's confident in his abilities. It came across as being arrogant as opposed to confident.
Right, and Ed Reed and Ray Lewis will be back next year.
What's their status?
Yeah, are they confirmed to be returned next year?
Oh, yeah, they're fine. They will both be back. Ray keeps quiet during the off season. I'm sure he's in fine shape. Ed Reed also is recovering from a few ailments, but both guys are going to be back and ready to go this season. I don't think too many more years left in the tank for either. In fact, I think this could be, depending on how the season goes, their final year. We'll have to wait and see. We keep asking at the end of every season with Ray and Ed, and they keep coming back. But last year was a heartbreaker, losing the AFC Championship on a late drop pass, and they saw that as their best opportunity. But they've had a nice off season in terms of conditioning, and they're ready to go come September.
All right. Well, Jerry, great stuff as always. Jerry Coleman from 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore. Thank you for being on Louis Live and IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me, and anyone out there that wants to find me on Twitter, I'm tweeting all the time, twitter.com/sportswcoleman, Coleman. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Jerry.
Be well out there.
Have a good day.
Talk to you soon.
All right, that was Jerry Coleman, and we're going to take a break on the other side from the Washington Examiner, Jim Williams. You're listening to Louis Live and IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed frequent flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJing parties throughout Israel, birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music and DJ Venom will turn your event into the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Hi, Jim. You're on Louis Live in Israel Sports Radio. We have Jim Williams right now from the Washington Examiner. Jim, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great. A lot of great stuff in baseball last night. We just had your close friend Jerry Coleman on again. We had a great time talking to him. He's a great guy, so thanks for helping us with that.
I don't even know the guy. No, I'm just kidding. He is a good guy. He's fun.
Right, and there's, a lot of the stuff, Josh Hamilton's 4-home-run game, the caps, and so I know that's a lot of stuff that Jerry is very big into. But you know what, Jim, I got to start with the college basketball question because that's just the way it is. And it's a big college basketball question because it's huge news into the college basketball world. It just got released just now, actually. The NCAA is investigating Nerlens Noel, who was the number one recruit over Shabazz Muhammad. Technically, he was ranked number one in most things.
Right.
They're investigating him for some issues, and it could be that he might be ineligible. And now this kind of reminds us of 2 years ago in Enes Kanter, who was the Turkish star who everyone expected. I think he was number one or number two recruit at the time as well.
Right.
This is not good. This is a guy that Kentucky really counted on. He was going to kind of be the replacement for Anthony Davis. He's a shot-blocking phenom, 6'10", from Tilton School in New Hampshire, which is one of those prep schools that the guys all go to. They all seem to be in New Hampshire and in that area. It's kind of interesting. But
New Hampshire, Virginia.
New Hampshire, Virginia, right. There's a Hargrave Academy. I don't know where that is, but I know it's a big one. Anyway, this is big news for the college basketball world because this guy's supposed to be, the star next year. So, first of all, Jim, have you heard anything about this? And if not, what are just your thoughts on this happening to Kentucky again?
Yeah, first of all, I've heard, there was rumblings about this for about a couple of weeks, that there were some possible situations where he was academically ineligible to attend either the University of Kentucky or, for that matter, a couple of different universities that might have been looking at him. In other words, basically, the kid had played a lot of basketball and not really had attended to his studies. In cases like that, there's a couple of options. One, he can go to play in a junior college. The other option is to go and play overseas. And or if he truly wants to, he can, depending upon how the academic situation is or how bad the academic situation is, he can enroll in a junior college and take college-level courses and try to meet the entrance requirements at the University of Kentucky by the end of the summer. Those are all options, and right now I think we don't know what's going to happen here. But there are options other than necessarily going overseas to play. Although that option is an option, as you know, that some high school kids have chosen to take, especially from a hardship standpoint, because if academically they're not strong enough, they feel, why not take the money, go over and really get some good playing time. And yeah, it may take them 2 years to make it back to play in the NBA, or sometimes even 3. But at least they're being paid full time while they're over there, and at the same time getting valuable, reps in a pro game as opposed to playing college basketball.
Yeah, great point. I mean, the Euro League really is considered the top competition in the world besides the NBA. A lot of guys, Brandon Jennings said that a couple years ago, and it worked out pretty well for him. He got drafted in the lottery, and now is pretty much the face of the Bucks. So it worked out. A guy who it didn't work out for is Jeremy Tyler, the guy who didn't even go to a senior year of high school out of San Diego. He came to Israel. He played for Maccabi Haifa here in Israel, which is owned by billionaire Jeffrey Rosen from Miami. And he didn't even play, and he got in a fight with the coach, and he got kicked out. But he still got drafted in the NBA, and he's playing right now for some. I mean, he's not playing much, but he's still in the NBA and making money. So, yeah, that's a great point. Another thing you said, the JUCO college and community college, look at a guy like Cam Newton. After he got kicked out of Florida, went somewhere, I don't recall where.
He went to Alabama, he went to Texas, played 1 year of junior college ball in Texas,
right,
and then entered Auburn.
Right, and then we know what happened there when the Heisman won the national championship. Also, if I recall, a lot of guys like, I believe Terrell Owens did that. Also, he was in community college. Kurt Schilling, who we just had on the program, told Ari and I that he started off in community college. So
a lot of baseball guys who decide that they want, that they need some extra seasoning, and there's a lot of good Florida and California junior colleges, Texas junior colleges, where you can go and play, and it's very competitive. So in 2 years' time, they can come out and be eligible for the draft. I mean, it's exactly. Bryce actually got his GED from high school a year ahead of time, entered junior college, played 1 year of junior college, and in essence was eligible for the quote-unquote the college draft as opposed to what he would have been eligible for, which would have been the high school draft. So he came in as a college player as opposed to a high school player at the same age that most the same age that most high school players come in at.
Right, guys like A-Rod and Ken Griffey were drafted out of high school. I believe that Bryce Harper went to Southern Nevada and was hit something like 380 there. 15.
He played in that league because it was a wooden bat league.
Right,
and,
exactly.
It was also, located in Las Vegas, which is where his home is. So he was able to, and his brother played on the same team.
Right. Family love, that always helps. But yeah, always got to have the college basketball. I mean, that's just really big for us college basketball nut fans out there because we're excited when these guys come in the league. We don't want them to go to Europe. I mean, I guess I'll be happy if he goes to Europe because I'll get to watch him, but you won't. You won't get to watch him, Jim, because of the time.
We get Euro basketball, so we'll watch him. But I think that, look, you've got to do as a kid coming out of out of college or out of high school, you've got to do what is in the best interest of you hope that you have good advice in this situation. And let's be honest here, okay? Some of these kids that come out knowing that they're really not going to get a college education. They're going to, play college basketball for the sole purpose of becoming a professional athlete. And if that's done in college for 1 year, then so be it. If it's done, if you come out of high school and you simply can't cut it academically and you're not going to get into a school and you feel that playing in junior college is something that you don't, want to get into, then going to the European route is a far more attractive option and something that, frankly, I think that you'll see more and more kids do over the long term because of the power of the Euro League. Now, to that extent, obviously, just because a Euro League team picks you up doesn't mean you're going to start. So, coming right out of high school, what you will do is you'll get a check, which is, you'll get paid, and you'll get your reps, and you'll get in there when you prove that you're capable of doing it. So just because, you're going, quote unquote, I'm going to go play ball in Europe, doesn't necessarily mean that the first, moment you get to Europe, you're going to, be on the starting squad, or even for that matter, make the team. There are some kids that go over there and realize that they're going to have to. Their only option is to come back to the United States and play in junior college ball because they weren't good enough to play in Europe.
Yeah, great point, Brandon Jennings. I mean, what you just said is a really good point. I think a lot of Americans don't realize that, so I'm glad you said that. Is Brandon Jennings, who was one of the top high school recruits in the country, he played 12 minutes a game. I remember looking at his stats, and in European League they play 40 minutes. So 12 out of 40 minutes, I mean, that's not a lot. Or maybe it was 18 minutes. It wasn't a lot, though. I know he didn't start and he didn't play that much, but he got good experience. When you play in the Euro League, you play against the best guys, and you can't just expect, like as you said, because you were good in high school, that you're going to be able to start against Europeans. Europeans, I would say, Jim, I don't know if you agree with this, but they have better IQ than most college. I mean, if you look at Europe against college, even maybe NBA, the European guys from Greece and Croatia and Lithuania, those guys are very smart. They have the IQ that a lot of guys in America don't have.
Well, let's face it, they have played either college ball or they've played for their country in that type of situation. They're smarter. I agree with you. They have a higher basketball IQ. The other part of the equation is they're team players. And they learn their game is far more complete when they come to the United States to play than is a United States player going over and playing in Europe.
Right.
A United States player is mostly a break it down, kind of one-on-one player. And because if you're coming over and you're the star of a team, you really, either you're getting the ball most of the time or you're dishing the ball to somebody else who then gets it back to you at some point in time. That isn't the case in Europe. You're getting everybody over there. Some of the stars that we now see, the Dirk Nowitzki's, the Tony Parkers, the guys who come over here and are playing at the highest level. Even Jan Vesey, who played, for the Wizards this year.
Right.
I mean, these are guys who can run the court. They're just as comfortable playing, straight up shoot the ball from anywhere on the court as they are going to the rack and slamming the ball or grabbing a rebound. So I would honestly say that what you get when you get a player from Europe and from the Euro League is a far more complete player than what you get when you get a kid right out of college. Even though the kid out of college may have tremendous raw talent, they just fitting them into the team game is a little bit more difficult than when you get a Euro player coming over because they are automatically involved in the team game.
Right, and I mean, a great example of what you were saying is you look at Ricky Rubio's numbers for Barcelona. They're not impressive. It's like 9 points a game, 5 assists a game. But in Europe, it's like you were explaining it in a really great way. It's not about that. I mean, there's no guy in Europe that averages the highest points per game guy in Europe is probably 18. I mean, if a guy averages 18 in the Euro League, he's a superstar. There is no 32 points. There are no 50-point games. That doesn't happen because of the defense and the style. So you're really right. I really like how you explain that. Hopefully our listeners will get that. Guys like Parker and Nowitzki, and Nowitzki, when he came to the NBA, was a star in the second division in the German league, then played a little bit in the first division, then he was gone, and that was it. He was the 10th pick, I believe. So,
he's been. I mean, that was a long time ago.
Right.
But what has happened is that you get coaches who understand that you're not going to, that the only way to win, and this is in large part, this comes from soccer, and that is that, you have coaches who focus on how do we win as a team. We may have superstars on the team, but, that superstar cannot work well unless we as a team make it, give him opportunities to win and to make us win. And I think if you look at the teams in the Euro League, you see a lot of teams with a lot of good, cohesive talent. And as you say, 18 points is a star. Well, that's 18 points because the system is such that, runs such that they manage minutes.
Yeah.
Nobody's playing 48 minutes in a basketball game. They're managing their minutes. They're getting the guys in, getting the guys out, and making sure that they can play basketball as a unit. And your benches are much longer, meaning that in the NBA, you may have 6 guys, 7 guys, that you rotate in and out of a lineup. In most Euro leagues, you get 8 or 9 guys into the game. Yep. So it's a much deeper bench, and teams play. They have to play team ball because not everybody has a superstar, but a lot of teams have talented players who eventually become stars.
Right. Anthony Parker, who became a superstar in Israel, won 2 EuroLeague championships, and now I wouldn't say he had a tremendous career in the NBA, but a pretty solid, with the Cavs.
Yeah.
Who was he with the Raptors? He did pretty well with the Raptors, averaged 15 a game. There's a lot of guys like that who were in Maccabi or Panathinaikos or Bologna in Italy. I mean, there's a lot of places. But wow, that was really interesting. I wasn't expecting it to be that long of a conversation, but that was great. Let's kind of jump back to American sports and back to what's going on right now. I want to get your thoughts on the knucklehead play of Cole Hamels plunking Bryce Harper, and why would he admit it to the media? I mean, what was he thinking?
I don't know that he was thinking. First of all, hitting a 19-year-old kid, if that's what you want to do, I mean, if Cole just felt that, he wanted to do that as a pitcher, in these ridiculous unwritten rules of baseball, and then to come out after the game and literally, brag about it. Well, this is what I do. I did it because, I'm old school, blah, blah, blah. And the thing is that there's a lot of old school players, including Curt Schilling, who came out yesterday and have come out ever since. Curt, of course, pitched for the Phillies and said, no, that's not old school. Old school, you have to do something. Okay, you have to actually do something to warrant being hit by a pitcher. Bryce Harper had never faced Cole Hamels before. Bryce Harper, that was the first pitch that basically he just plunked him in the rear end with the ball. Okay, but at the same time, that was at 93 miles an hour. If that ball comes a little higher, he got a broken rib. If that ball comes, if Bryce moves, flinches into the inside, it could hit him on the elbow.
Right. So,
so you actually could have hurt the kid, who's 19 years old, who all you're trying to do is make a point. Schilling's point was and many other pitchers' point was my statement to a 19-year-old rookie is I'm going to strike him out on 3 pitches.
Right. I mean, that. Though, Jim, got to ask, 5-game suspension, it just pushes back a start one day. Was that, I mean, that was kind of a.
That's ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. I mean, what it cost him $450,000. I mean, that's what it cost him.
Right.
I mean, it was a bonehead move. Mike Rizzo went off. He's the general manager for the Nationals.
Right.
Mike got an undisclosed fine for screaming at Hamels and what he did. And at the end of the day, the funny thing was that Bryce is the one who got the last laugh. He stole home on Hamels.
Right, he did.
So you got a 19-year-old kid who you just made a move to first base, and oh, by the way, when you did it, the kid broke from third base and steals home on you.
I mean, yeah, and again, as you mentioned, for our listeners in Israel who don't know much about baseball, being 19, it's not like in the NBA, guys, that being a 19-year-old in the major leagues is rough. It's not only a few guys.
You can count on your one hand the 19-year-old kids who start in baseball, and we're talking now over 10 years.
Right.
A 19-year-old kid who starts. Most kids who come to major leagues, the average age of a rookie in the Major League Baseball is 21, 22.
Yeah, and if you look at some guys who have been drafted out of high school and gotten a chance to play really shortly, Ken Griffey, A-Rod. So, I mean, that's a nice list to be on.
Right. Dwight Gooden.
Dwight Gooden,
those
right.
kind of guys. Darryl Strawberry, it's kind of old school stuff. But
right.
But it's, it doesn't happen often, as we said. In Bryce's case, Bryce is just 19 and just came up to the big leagues, and it's actually the funny thing was that in the two earlier games that the Nationals beat the Phillies on Friday and Saturday, they pitched around them. They literally pitched around a 19-year-old kid. They walked him 3 times.
That's amazing.
in 2 games.
Jim, I want to stick with baseball still.
Hey, Ari Louis.
Hey, how's it going?
Okay.
Josh Hamilton, 4 home runs last night. So to give you perspective how great of a season he's had already, he's 4 homers ahead of second place. He is 14 batting points ahead of Derek Jeter for the batting title, and he is 11 RBI ahead of the Encarnacion of Rafi's Toronto Blue Jays.
Yes.
So we have not had a Triple Crown winner since the 60s. Frank Robinson did it a couple of times in that decade. I think if this could be the year, it is done. Josh Hamilton is red hot. What are your thoughts? And if it does happen in the American League, Kemp is right there in the National League, 2 of the 3 top categories there. So what are really the chances of a Triple Crown winner this season in Major League Baseball?
Oh, man. It would be, I'd love to see it, and either one of those guys is capable of doing it. They're phenomenal athletes. The problem is, as you guys know, is the grind. It's early in the season. We've got a long, long way to go. And of all the seasons in American sports, baseball is the longest. It's a 162 game season. So for you to be able to continue, you meaning either Kemp or Josh Hamilton, to continue to play at that high level for that long a period of time becomes more and more difficult because of, quite frankly, the quality of pitching. It's not really their issues. It's the fact that you're not getting, when pitchers are getting hit, they'll tend to not throw you anything you can hit. So it takes a great deal of discipline. And so, will Josh Hamilton swing at bad pitches or will he take a walk? I mean, will Matt Kemp do it? I mean, you tend to go fishing because you're tired of not getting, a good pitch. And I would say, frankly, the guy with the better chance of making it is Josh Hamilton of the Rangers, because the Rangers have hitters behind him in front of him. So if you walk Josh Hamilton, they'll make you pay because the next guy up will, can hit. That's not the case as much with the Dodgers because the Dodgers aren't that deep with regard to power hitters in the lineup that you're concerned about. If I put him on, then is the next guy going to hurt me? In Texas's case, 1 through 9, there's everybody on that Texas Rangers team that can hit. They come off the bat, they come out of they come out, off the bus with baseball bats hitting. So they're ready to play, and I think that if someone can do it, and believe me, it is an extremely difficult situation, especially with the watered down pitching situation that we have in both the American and National League. It's going to be tough, but if anybody can do it, I think Josh has a better chance because he has protection around him that Matt Kemp doesn't.
All right, and last question before I let you go. Big game tonight. Capitals taking on the Rangers. It's been a great series. First 5 games, we've had 2 triple overtime games. All the games have been decided by 1 goal except for game 1, which was 2 goals. No team has scored more than 3 goals in a game in the series. What do you like tonight between the Capitals and the New York Rangers?
Capitals haven't lost back-to-back games in over 2.5 months. They adapt very well. They will win tonight at the Verizon Center. We'll go to a Game 7 at Madison Square Garden, and that one's up for grabs at this point. I think that the Caps, save for 6.6 seconds of last game, they would have been 3-2 up. And so they've played well. I don't see that this is a bounce-back team. This is a team that is very resilient, and it's a team that plays very strong. They're a better team. It's funny to say. The Rangers won. They were the number 1 seed, but I think as we entered the playoffs in the month of March, they went up there during the regular season and beat the Rangers at Madison Square Garden. They do not fear playing in Madison Square Garden. The first 10 minutes of tonight's game will probably be, a crucial part of the game. I think that the Caps need to establish, Ovi's got to get into it, Alexander Ovechkin, Nicholas Backstrom, Semin. The big guns have to start coming out and just, flailing away. Part of, some people were saying, well, Ovi only got, 1 shot off in the situation in Game 5 the other night. And part of the problem is, if you know anything about hockey, what the Rangers did is they take away space. Okay, they're not hitting him. What they're doing is they're disrupting the puck movement. So in other words, if Ovi gets the puck, they're putting defenders on him that literally do nothing but they're walking around with their stick, being very pesky, knocking the puck away, disrupting his flow and his ability to move with the puck. What Dale Hunter will do to counteract that is he will change and put Ovi on for shorter shifts. So you're likely to see that Ovechkin will be on the ice a lot, but in short bursts. He'll be on for maybe 30 seconds or 40 seconds at a time, as opposed to his normal 50 to 55 seconds. So what will happen is that way, the moment the good defender goes off, Ovi will come on the ice. Or, when the matchup is right, Hunter will put Ovi in the game. So they'll spot Ovi. The rest of the time, Backstrom, Semin, Mike Green, those guys have to come up and play big tonight. It's obvious that Braden Holtby, the 22-year-old goalkeeper, has to, continue to play as well as he did. And I do believe they win tonight, and that we'll see a Game 7 come Saturday in Madison Square Garden. If it is, it'll be a game that will come about 7:30 Eastern time. So, that's what I hope happens. It's what I think will happen. And I've been right before, I've been wrong before. But I'm very superstitious about this, guys. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I'm running around here thinking, what am I going to do to jinx the team, or what am I going to do to help them? And I know that it's kind of funny. Maybe we'll do a show sometime on superstitions and that sort of thing, because there's a lot of fun superstitions that we could talk about. But I know, Ari, you probably run around with your coyotes trying to figure out, do I wear my coyote hat tonight? Do I not wear it? Do I listen to him on the radio? Do I watch him on TV? How do I, what do I do that I didn't do last time when they lost to make them win this time?
It's a great question. I'm going to try to just keep. I usually try to not watch it live and kind of catch it later, and that's worked so far, so I'll probably stick with that plan, I guess. And, it's great that this game be Saturday night, so those in New York City, if there's a Game 7, which there probably will be, can keep Shabbat and then go to the game after, so that's good stuff.
Yeah, well, it has to do with the Tournament Players Championship being played in golf at Ponce Vedra down in Jacksonville. What happens is that because of that, the NBC Television Network, who owns the television rights to the National Hockey League, will move the game to the NBC Sports Network and make it a primetime night game after the golf in the afternoon. So that is the plan. But as the old saying goes, you got to get there first. You got to win 6 before you can get to 7.
That's
and
right.
At this point in time, the Capitals have to win 6, and the key, as I say, for them tonight, I believe, is really the first 10 minutes. They need to get that first goal. They need to get up, and they need to go there. It's really funny, guys. In this series, and I'll keep it short, but in this series, no team has led by more than 1 goal, with the exception of the first game, and both of those goals were scored within 90 seconds of each other for the Rangers in that 3-1 victory. So, this has been a 1-goal series. They've had 2 overtime games, and it's just been, it's one of those things where if you're a fan, you don't have any fingernails left, and you just don't know what to do, because it's both sides are, you're on your edge of your seat because you just don't know what's going to happen. And that's really, at the end of the day, all you can really ask for with regard to that. And next week we'll talk NBA playoffs, and I'll get what you guys think is going to happen, because it's getting things are starting to get interesting.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's exciting stuff in all sports right now. All right, Jim, we have to run, but we certainly appreciate your time here on Louis Live and IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Always a pleasure, guys. Take care and have a good weekend.
All right,
Shabbat
you too.
shalom to everybody.
Shabbat shalom. Be well, Jim.
Bye.
All right, that was Jim Williams of the Washington Examiner. We're going to not go to a commercial break right now. We're going to stay here and dial up our next guest.
And I'll introduce him for everyone.
This is very exciting. This gentleman has not been on the program before, but he is with the NFL Network. And his name is Charles Davis. So we're dialing up Charles.
Hello?
Hi, am I
Hello?
speaking with Charles Davis?
This is he.
Hi, Charles. You are on Louis Live and IsraelSportsRadio.com. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. We want to break down the NFL draft. We haven't had a chance to really do that with the NBA playoffs going on, the NHL playoffs. We had a lot of great guests on. So we really want to take a great look at everything from quarterbacks to running backs to wide receivers. Everyone's been talking about Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin III. So let's not do that. Let's start off with some of the guys that were taken later on. So let's start off with the controversial pick in Washington. We just had a guy on from the Washington Examiner, and Kirk Cousins from Michigan State, who's played really well. I'm a Big Ten guy. They take him after grabbing Griffin III and making all those trades for him, and they take a guy in the 4th round. I mean, what were they thinking? What are your thoughts on Cousins, and why did they do this?
I think that it's part of what happens in the league when you look at Washington's quarterbacking situation. You see clearly that obviously Griffin was needed, but I'm not sure you can just stop there. Not many guys make 16 starts in this league. It's hard to do. That's why we were celebrating Brett Favre's streak, and we were celebrating Peyton Manning's streak. It's unusual that guys answer the bell every week, so you better have someone in your stable who can run your team and doesn't cost you a playoff spot. Houston last year almost ran into that, and T.J. Yates rescued him as a rookie and took him to the playoffs and actually won a playoff game when Matt Schaub went down. The Bears looked like they were in the playoffs, and then Jay Cutler went down, and Caleb Haney was not the answer at all. They ended up missing the playoffs. So it's an important job, and they've seen Rex Grossman. They've seen John Beck. They ended up cutting John Beck. They're keeping Grossman around, I think, for insurance more than anything, so they don't have rookie backing up rookie. But I don't think that he's long for Washington, D.C., and I think they did this for their depth going forward. And I know Kirk Cousins wants to be a starter in the league and really challenge for it. He won't do that in Washington. His hope is that maybe he gets a few opportunities along the way and turns it into a Matt Flynn or a Matt Schaub type of a situation where he becomes marketable and has a chance to play somewhere else. Charlie Whitehurst got traded to become the starter. It didn't work in Seattle. Flynn's getting that opportunity now. Schaub it worked for greatly in Houston. Heck, I'm old enough to remember Scott Mitchell getting that type of an opportunity, and it didn't work out very well for Detroit. So you just never know. But I think ultimately Washington is trying to strengthen a position of need, even though they appeared to have so many other needs during that time. People were like, well, you drafted a quarterback. Well, if he goes down, you're going to want another one. And I don't believe that Washington feels that Rex Grossman is the guy that they want for the long haul. Kirk Cousins could be.
Right, and yeah, great point. Matt Schaub played really well for the Falcons when that stuff was going on with Michael Vick. And then you got that monster contract from the Texans. So, yeah, that's a very good point. I know a lot of people in the media, though, have been kind of slamming this decision, but, you made it sound like they made the right choice.
Well, that always remains to be seen on any pick that anyone makes, but I do think that they understand, the business of playing quarterback. It's not an easy deal. And I just don't think that they're looking for Rex Grossman to be a backup beyond this year. I think it's a one-year proposition and move on. Kirk Cousins could assume that role from that point on.
Okay, next quarterback we want to talk about, again, Big Ten. We're going to stick with the Big Ten, the 5'10.5". Maybe that's generous, maybe it's not. Russell Wilson, who really had a great year at Wisconsin. The height's always a problem. It was a problem for Michael Vick's little brother, Marcus Vick. It's been a problem for a lot of guys. I'm forgetting the name right now. Troy Smith, I believe, from Ohio State, who won the Heisman that year. 5'10", the same issue. Had a chance with San Francisco, never really could live up to it. But third-round pick, Russell Wilson, had the whole thing about playing baseball, decided not to play baseball. Had a great year last year, coming over from the Wolfpack. The Seahawks take him. The Seahawks now have Flynn and Jackson. Is this guy their backup's backup, or what is going to be his role, you think, in this upcoming season for the Seahawks?
It'll be interesting to see because I think he's a true quarterback. The height is obviously an issue. Drew Brees is barely 6 feet tall, and he's found a way to make it work. I think that people gave up on Doug Flutie way too quickly. Asked the Buffalo Bills about how he took them to the playoffs that year, and then they brought Rob Johnson back, and then they got beat in the Music City Miracle game in Tennessee, and Rob Johnson truly proved himself not to be the answer. Doug Flutie was playing rings around him, and they went back to him because of height and what they'd invested in Rob Johnson as a free agent. But these quarterbacks who are missing that one element, they're obviously their margin of error is much smaller. But I think that Seattle is showing that they're going to be creative this year. I think that they're showing they're going to let Flynn and Tavares Jackson probably battle it out to be the starting quarterback with most of the smart money on Flynn. You don't acquire him as a free agent like that without the expectation that he wins that job. Jackson becomes your backup. Whitehurst, of course, falls out of the thing, and they're hoping to get something for him somewhere along the way. And I think that you probably use Russell Wilson initially as a change-up guy, as a guy that maybe you can run your Wildcat stuff with, a guy who could actually play quarterback. See, that's where I think the Wildcat has evolved. You don't just run a running back out there anymore and hope that he's got a wide-open guy that he can loft the ball to downfield when you actually want to throw it. Now that throw threat really becomes something that you have to play for. And maybe it's more like single-wing football or, whatever you want to call it, maybe some wing tee stuff, out of the gun. But this guy gives you that dimension. Plus, I think he's a flat-out quarterback, not just a gimmick guy. And he's a guy who knows how to slide and move in the pocket. And, if you look back at him last year, he was a 70-plus, like 73% thrower behind a huge offensive line. So he had to find ways to slide into the right throwing lanes and throw the football. And then he had precious few balls batted back in his face. So I like the pick for Seattle in terms of if they're going to be creative with him and give him an opportunity. Again, it's one of those picks where people are like, yeah, did we really need another quarterback? But to me, if they picked him, they've got plans for him, and they've got an idea, and I think that's going to expand their playbook and wreak a little havoc on the defenses they're going to play against.
Of course, yeah. And, it's really interesting to see what happens. And you kind of got to root for him because he did get drafted, I believe, by the Rockies, and he declined that. And he said he wanted to pursue an NFL career. So, the good guy in me has to kind of root for him and hope that he gets an opportunity there. Matt Flynn also has a lot to prove there. Actually, if you think about it, so does Jackson because he's kind of struggled a couple of years as being the starter coming over from Minnesota. believe it or not, we are not going to talk to you about Andrew Luck or Robert Griffin III. I'll say that again because I'm sure you've had to say that over and over and talk about them over and over again. We just don't want to do that. We're going to change things up. So let's talk about the 28-year-old from Oklahoma State, Brandon Weeden, who had Justin Blackman, who was the number one receiver taken off the board. Hopefully you'll be able to help me with this. Was Des Bryant around when Brandon Weeden was there as well?
I think he was for a short time, and then obviously that changed up, and Brandon became the starter for the last 2 years while he was at Oklahoma State, and now he's throwing to Justin Blackman. But Des was around, and he knows him and has worked out with him. I spent some time talking with Brandon about the two of them and kind of comparing and contrasting them. So he definitely knows, and being 28, 29 when the season starts next year, it's an interesting debate because if he was 22 coming out of college, obviously some of these debates are exercising futility because there's nothing you can do about it. He is 28 years old. But if he's 22 coming out, I think a lot of people would have ranked him ahead of Tannehill. And it would have been an easy decision about who the third quarterback was coming out this year. But because he wasn't, that knocked him down a few pegs, but he still landed in the first round with a team that desperately needs someone to take over the reins at quarterback and have the team play well. And it's a great opportunity for him in Cleveland. I think Cleveland wanted to get him later than they did, but they couldn't work out the proper deals to move back, and I think they started to get worried that someone else would sneak up there and take him, and they were really sold on him. That's why he went at 22. Because that was a big debate pick. Will they take the quarterback at 22, or will they drop back? I thought they would drop back. I thought they'd try and trade down, get him somewhere around 29, 30, maybe even top of the second round, but they couldn't find that to work out, and they said, forget it. We know other people want him too. Let's get him right now, and I think that he'll be the day one starter when the season begins. He's got some adjustments to make. Never called plays in the huddle at Oklahoma State. Everything was on the line of scrimmage. Never had to actually bark out a play call. Wasn't under center very often. Rarely was under center, so I have to work on that in footwork. But we've seen spread quarterbacks come into the league, adjust and adapt, and have success. Cam Newton last year, Andy Dalton last year, Joe Flacco was a spreaded guy in college. You can go right on down the line. These guys who are athletic and smart and put the time in, Josh Freeman was a spread guy in college, they come in and they get it done. And I think Brandon Weeden shouldn't be any different. Even though they're going to call him Methuselah and everything else in the locker room, I think he'll be just fine.
Okay, so technically then, are you saying that the Browns management has fully given up on Colt McCoy?
I'm not saying that they've given up, but I think that they did not draft Brandon Weeden number 22 in the first round at his age to groom him.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I think they'd be smart to keep Colt McCoy around as their backup, and I don't see any reason to trade him or move him unless they've got someone they like better. He's a guy who knows the Brown system now, been around Shermer, been around Holmgren as the president of the deal. I think that he's a guy who's serviceable in that way. But I think they'd like to give Brandon Weeden every chance to become the starting quarterback in Cleveland, and I believe that, barring injury, he will be on opening day.
Okay, great. We're on right now with Charles Davis from the NFL Network. Again, thank you for joining us. Ryan Tannehill, Texas A&M, came into Texas A&M as a wide receiver. I believe he's only had something like 19, okay.
Starts.
I knew I was close.
You were close.
Starts at Texas A&M. Of course, for all our college football fans listening right now, a lot of people will say, this team started off, I think, 6-0 and really stumbled down the season and struggling. They had a great running back in Cyrus Gray, who was drafted, but we'll get to the running backs later. But was this guy worth being picked number 8 overall?
I think that he has plenty of talent. He has better athleticism than even most people give him credit for, even though they know he played wide receiver. I watched him make some plays in the pocket last year that were, at one point, I think I described down there as positively balletic, the way that he moved his feet and made a throw. Plenty of arm, very smart young man. He was a finalist for the Academic Heisman Award as given by the National Football Foundation, called the Campbell Trophy. All those things play into it. I watched him play personally 3 times live last year. I like a lot of what he did, but I was not sold on him being a top 10 pick. I didn't see him as that dynamic guy that at the end of the day wins everything, that people go look to, and down the stretch he makes all the big throws and the whole thing. I'm hoping he proves me wrong because I really like the young man. I think he's a terrific youngster, I think he'll be a good starter in the NFL. There's nothing wrong with that. You can win a lot of games with a good starter in the NFL. Heck, you can win Super Bowls with a good starter. And I think he can develop even beyond that. I'm not worried about the 19 starts. Mark Sanchez had 16 coming in. That doesn't bother me one bit. I just don't see him as that guy, ultimately, that I would have said top 10 is where I'm going, that right out of the gate I get the guy that I want that will take me. I mean, he's nowhere near what a Cam Newton was. If you want to compare him to Andy Dalton, Dalton does win the experience battle. Dalton was a 4-year starter at TCU. So that changes things a little bit. But he's starting fresh in Miami. His college coach is his offensive coordinator. So the idea that he has to be groomed, I think, is an idea that's folly, because all the quarterbacks are starting from the same spot. This isn't the same staff. It isn't the same playbook that Matt Moore ran last year. So he and Garrard, with their NFL experience, that helps. But I don't think that it helps with their playbook and their new system and installation. If I'm the Dolphins, I find every reason possible to make him my starter on opening day. I don't even think about him coming off the bench. We've had too many quarterbacks come in the league in the last 3-4 years who have had success early for me to think about I'm going to sit him for a year behind a Matt Moore and a David Garrard and groom him and bring him along slowly. I throw that idea right out the window. Miami's a team that doesn't need that. Miami's a team that needs to grow with their quarterback and start over and hit the reset button. It's not like they were challenging for a playoff spot last year. Let's get the young man on the field and let him go.
Right, and though they did have a pretty solid second half after starting 0-8, 0-9, or 0-7, I think, I don't remember.
Yeah, and you and I both know when you start 0-7, 0-8, you're playing with house money. That's
right.
Like the year Vince Young came off the bench with Tennessee, and they were 0-8, and they looked like they were playing for a playoff spot.
Right.
And then they played their most important game of the year on Christmas night at home against San Diego. Now there's pressure. Now it counts, and they got absolutely whacked that night. And Vince Young played horribly.
Right.
Okay, so I'm not a big believer in that. That's fool's gold to me.
Okay, great stuff. That was awesome. I got to ask you, was it kind of a relief to not have to do the whole Andrew Luck RG3 thing?
It was wonderful. It's refreshing for those guys too. You know, I think both of them would use the line out of Jerry Maguire. Even I'm tired of me.
Right.
You know, I mean, they've been talked about for so long now. They just want to go ahead and play. So I think a lot of people feel the same way. Just let them play at this point.
Right, and I think that was really well said. Moving on, we're just going to go quarterbacks, running backs, receivers. Then my co-host Ari Louis is going to talk to you about some of his teams and specific needs that they need and what they did this offseason and what they need to do. But moving on to running backs, it's kind of an interesting year for running backs, in my opinion. Let's look at some notables in the later rounds. Guys like Cyrus Gray, who is a monster for Texas A&M. They always seem to have good running backs. Even a guy like Michael James, who is really, if you look at this list, was probably the biggest superstar besides Trent Richardson. He was probably the most well-known. He's really been instrumental in that Ducks offense the past couple seasons, and he came back from that elbow dislocation, I think ran for 200 yards. But a guy who I really like, because I'm a huge Virginia Tech fan, is David Wilson, who the Giants took. The Giants just released, I think they just released Bradshaw, or was it they just released Jacobs? I don't remember which one they released.
Yeah, Brandon Jacobs.
Okay, they released Jacobs. David Wilson's an interesting guy. He has great production. What are you looking for him in this Giants offense? Is he going to play immediately? Is he going to take the spot of Jacobs? What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, he's got to take a spot because Jacobs is gone, and now you're down essentially to Ahmad Bradshaw and Danny Ware.
Right.
And I don't think they look at Ware as a guy that they want to run very often. I think David Wilson comes in with the opportunity to be a runner, catch it out of the backfield. He can pass protect. Remember, he's got low mileage on his odometer, as I call it, because he's only a one-year starter at Virginia Tech. Plus, he can be a kick return guy, and I think he's very dynamic. He was my number 2 running back going into the draft. I had him rated ahead of Doug Martin, while most people I felt like had Doug Martin rated ahead of him. I just think that David Wilson can make bigger plays. I'm not saying that Doug Martin's not a good back. I think he is. I think he's an excellent back. But I think that at the end of the day, if there's 10 yards to be gotten, both of them will get 10, but Wilson might get me 12 or 14.
Right.
And that's what I like about him. Now, he's got to cure the fumbling issue.
Yeah,
he
that's
can't
a
put
big
on the
problem.
ground like he did at Virginia Tech 7 times last year. But he went to the absolute right team because if I remember correctly, Tiki Barber's career took off when they cured his fumbling issue with the New York Giants, and it's the same common denominators there with running back coach, head coach, the whole deal. So I think that he's going to get excellent tutelage that way, and if he takes to that, I think David Wilson's future is very bright because the Giants will rotate backs and give him opportunities.
Right, and I'm a diehard Patriots fan. They're my team. We lived in New England for 1 year. It's actually a cool story I'm going to tell you real quick. We were in New England for 1 year. We moved from Israel to New England, and I was watching a football game. My father's American, my mom's Canadian. I was born and raised here. Watching a football game, and suddenly out of nowhere, Drew Bledsoe goes down, and the TV guy goes, and a guy named Tom Brady's coming in the game. We don't really know much about him, but he's coming in the game. And that was the first football game I'd ever seen in my life. And because I just did in Israel, there's not much about football, but ever since then, I then lived in Indiana or in Bloomington, Indiana, for 7 years with all the Colt fans. And no matter what, the Patriots are my team. I'd watch them every week. I'd have to deal with all the crap that I got when the Colts beat us. But then again, it was great when we beat them so many times, and Peyton Manning would just throw the ball to Ty Law. But the reason I'm telling you this is the thing we just said about the fumble is a really interesting fact from last year's Patriots team. Ben Jarvis Green-Ellis, who actually played at Indiana before he transferred to Ole Miss, I did not have a fumble, I think, for something like 600 possessions in a row. Now, this guy's not, the greatest running back in a row, but when you can give him the ball and he's not going to fumble and he's going to do a good enough job, and you have Danny Woodhead and you have all those, offensive weapons, that's impressive. I think he left us and signed a contract somewhere else for a bit more money. But still, congrats to him and, coming. I don't think he was drafted. I'm pretty sure he wasn't drafted, and he was pretty much a starter on the Patriots team on these successful teams the last year. So I'm just bringing that up because you mentioned the fumble thing. I know that was a long story, but I just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah, the biggest thing is ball security. Take care of the football and not giving extra possessions to the opponent. And David Wilson will find out very quickly. You turn it over a few times, your teammates are going to get involved wanting to talk to you about that too. So I think that he's going to figure it out.
Right. Now, next, we are going to talk about a well-known player. I'm sorry, Charles. Trent Richardson, taken number 3 by the Browns. So the Browns had 2 picks in the first 22. They took at number 3 Trent Richardson, at number 22 Brandon Whedon. So that's kind of like revamping your offense. And again, I'm going to ask you the same question regarding the Browns running back Peyton Hillis. Did they give up on him?
Well, I think that you saw what Peyton did 2 years ago. You saw what happened last year. The Browns, I believe, feel like he's not going to get back to that level. That he didn't run the same way. They didn't see the same guy running behind his pads and running like a diesel that they saw in 2010. And they decided to go a different way. Let's face it, you get a younger, fresher guy who runs like that, and Trent Richardson, who runs with violence in every carry that he has. That's the opportunity you want to take, and they had a chance to move up and get him, and they did. And I don't blame them one bit for that. And, Peyton Hillis will go and try it elsewhere now and see if he can get back to that form. But, younger's almost always going to win in that league.
Right, and he had, I believe, 1,100 years in that season that you were talking about. And I got to say it, the Madden curse. He was on Madden last year. And it's,
in that case, I'm worried about Megatron then.
Right, Calvin Johnson was selected as Madden 2013. I don't know. Let's hope that doesn't happen because he's a great player to watch.
Right.
Let's shift now. There's a lot of great running backs, but the wide receiver category I think was more interesting because there were a lot of guys who a lot of people in America don't know about if they don't watch college football. And a guy who I'm a big draft guru and all that kind of stuff, Alshon Jeffrey from South Carolina. I remember a couple of months ago he was supposed to go in the first round. But so what exactly happened there?
Well, I think his weight got out of control. He played at almost 240 pounds this last year. He was the victim of some inconsistent quarterback play there between Garcia and Connor Shaw. That hurt him a little bit. And people were wondering about his ability to run fast, which you do need for, as a wide receiver, and his ability to separate from people with his big body. Could he create enough space to catch the football? And that's what he ran into. He came back, dropped some weight, ran better at his pro day, but people had concerns because they're like, okay, we saw you play at 240. Are you just dropping weight to run for us, and will we get you back at 240? Or are we going to be able to keep you below 220? Because below 220, that's the Alshon Jeffrey we saw the year before where he was almost unstoppable in the SEC.
Right, and it's just weird because there was so much hype about him. Same kind of with Stephen Hill out of Georgia Tech, and he also kind of slipped, I guess, a little. But the next thing I want to talk to you about is A.J. Jenkins from Illinois. He again, Big Ten guy, Indiana guy. I watched him this year. Interesting selection. I don't know. Did a lot of people assume that this guy would go in the first round, or second to last pick, or what number 30 that is? But
yeah.
Were you expecting him?
It was a surprise. It was a surprise to a lot of people, but it makes sense when you look at what San Francisco was looking for. They're looking for a guy who could run very fast and could play outside, and that's what A.J. does. He's a guy who's a sub 4.5 40 guy. Caught a ton of balls, plenty of production. He caught 90 balls last year. I mean, when you do that, you're doing something right. And I don't think very many people in the country could say who his quarterback was. It wasn't like he was like Andrew Luck was throwing him the football or Robert Griffin III. So this was a big deal, and he kind of got overlooked that way. But San Francisco saw what they liked, a guy who ran a bunch of routes, who caught the ball in all situations, who kept getting better, went from 56 catches to 90 from 1 year to the next. And he's very solidly built, and he's a two-time academic All-Big Ten guy, so they like his brain because he'll be able to pick up the offense pretty quickly, they believe. And I think it turned out to be an inspired pick. I mean, a lot of us just miss. When we say miss, when we're looking at him, we're not looking at everything that certain teams are looking for. They're looking for a certain fit, and they believe they found it. And I think it's going to be one of the better picks of the first round when it's all said and done, because while it's a surprise to people, it fits exactly what San Francisco was looking for.
Right, and Illinois is, let's give credit to Coach Zook, even though he's fired. But let's still give him credit. A lot of guys have been drafted out of Illinois at the receiver position. Ben was drafted a couple years ago, I believe, in the first round or second round, and he's
second round pick. Yeah,
he's done okay. So,
no doubt.
Right.
No doubt. I mean, I give a lot of credit. I played for Coach Zook in college, so I'm very happy when his players come out and do well.
Okay. So I guess any new insight on what has he applied to new jobs, or what is he going to be doing next year?
I have no insight on that part of it. When Coach Zook decides he wants to make a move, we'll all hear about it at the same time.
Okay. Last question from me. Then we're going to do some talk about what's going on right now in the NFL. Ryan Broyles tore the ACL with Bradford, I believe, or maybe it wasn't Brad. No, it wasn't Bradford. It was
Landry Jones.
Landry Jones, right? Who's coming back, right? Who's probably will be a top 15 pick. Sorry, we just had an NBA guy on, so I'm trying to stay focused.
Okay, it's all right. Go ahead.
So he tore his ACL, and he kind of dropped. I remember there was a lot of hype. He was considered the number one receiver for a while in the country at his prime. Do you think the ACL is the reason he dropped?
Yeah, I think actually the funny part was he actually went about where he was really projected, because when it was all said and done, Ryan is not super tall. He's not a blazer. He's a very intelligent route runner. Eats up catches. The guy's averaging over 10 catches per game, and in all sorts of situations. Probably going to be a slot guy in the NFL, which usually doesn't rise you to the top of the receiver list. But most of us thought he would go in the third or the fourth round because of the knee injury. He actually went in the second, which is where most of us projected him if he had been healthy. Wow. So the Lions, they wanted him so badly, they took him at a spot where most people thought you could wait another round and get him. But they wanted him, and they're going to nurse him back to health, and then they'll unleash him and put him into their offense. And it kind of take me back to when I was a kid. They ran what they called the silver stretch, with a lot of receivers, quarterback throwing it on quick rhythm and firing, and that just gives Matthew Stafford another guy, because many people were puzzled, saying, didn't they draft Titus Young last year at a Boise State? Isn't he essentially the same kid? Maybe so, but Ryan Broyles is a crafty, good receiver with kick return ability, and I like him as soon as his knee gets healthy, although I think he'll start the season on the unable to perform list. He'll probably be out there before it's all said and done.
All right, we're on the air right now with Charles Davis from the NFL Network. This is Ari Louis. One last draft question, and then we'll ask you a question currently NFL, and then let you go. I am a huge Cardinals fan and also a big Notre Dame fan, so the two were really correlated nicely with the 11th pick overall in the draft of Michael Floyd. And I thought he was Notre Dame's best offensive player last year, probably really best player. Had the quarterback controversy with Reese and Chris. They switched quarterbacks, and he still played great. So the Cardinals now get another receiver, take some pressure off Larry Fitzgerald. I don't know who will be the quarterback exactly. That's still to be determined, but I just think the Cardinals got to steal number 13. I was so happy Michael was available. So talk about the impact of Michael Floyd on the Arizona Cardinals.
Well, I think it's a good one. I think it's a guy who can play now opposite Larry Fitzgerald. Remember when they went to the Super Bowl, they had the 3 receivers that really played well for them. You know, you had Anquan Bolden, you had Larry Fitzgerald, and you had Steve Breston. Well, Bolden and Breston are both with different teams now. They've been trying to recreate that since then, haven't come close to doing it. Michael Floyd gives them a great opportunity to get started in that direction. Big body guy who can run, about a 4.5 speed guy. Used to be in the focal point of teams defending him. From Minneapolis, so he knows Larry Fitzgerald well and has worked out with him over the years. So I think that gives him a leg up on getting started there. And if he's the mature kid that we saw last year and not the knucklehead they saw previously at Notre Dame who got into trouble, then I think the Cardinals did get that receiver that they needed to help their offense get kick-started and punched up.
All right, and our last question is a combination of Kurt's status and the draft, actually. Peyton Manning, of course, goes to the Broncos, so he's the starter there. And the Broncos, with the 57th pick in the draft, second-round pick, Brock Osweiler, now out of Arizona State, and that is my alumni. So it's interesting. Is the idea to groom Brock, to have Peyton come in and do that and play at the same time? Because Peyton signed, I believe, for a 5-year contract. So what was the thinking about taking a quarterback in the second round?
Well, I think that they've got a plan for the future, and the quarterbacks they've acquired behind Peyton. Caleb Haney came from the Bears, and we saw last year. I don't think many people have that much confidence that Caleb Haney would be your guy if something happens, could take you into the playoffs. They really struggled, and the Bears fell out of the playoffs because Caleb Haney struggled so much taking over for Jay Cutler. And then behind him is Adam Weber, who's a youngster out of the University of Minnesota. I think he was a free agent pick, and so they needed some depth in quarterbacking. And let's face it, Peyton's 34, 35 years old, coming off of 4 neck surgeries. You like to think that he's going to be as durable as he was before, but I think the Broncos are looking down the road. And with Osweiler, who really needed to go back to college for another year to groom himself, I mean, this is a guy who has less starts than Ryan Tannehill, and we were all debating that, about, what about Tannehill? Well, Osweiler couldn't go back. Brand new coach, going to run a different system, similar to Ryan Mallett at Michigan when Rich Rodriguez came in with the spread option. That's not what Ryan Mallett was going to do. So he transferred and went to Arkansas and ran more of a pro-style system. Osweiler didn't want to go back and find another place to play for his last year of football. Remember, Mallett had 2 seasons there that he could go play at Arkansas. So he actually had 3 left, but he ended up coming out after 2. But when you look at it from Osweiler's point of view, he'll get no better coaching than being in the pros, grooming behind Peyton Manning, John Elway in the front office. He can go anywhere in any direction and have some of the best quarterbacking advice a person can get, and he'll work on his game that way. Because if he goes back to Arizona State playing for Todd Graham, he probably ends up on the bench because he's not what Todd Graham's looking for in a quarterback. So it was a great move for Osweiler, and I think a move for the future for the Denver Broncos, even though they had other needs to fill. You've got to look at it differently with Peyton Manning now than you ever did before because of the 4 neck surgeries. You just can't think that he's going to be as durable as he was. We hope that he is, but now it's much more of a hope than an idea that he will be.
All right, well, Charles, great stuff. We really appreciate the time here on Louis Live and IsraelSportsRadio.com. We would love to do it again with you in the future.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. You take care of yourselves.
All right, be well.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was Charles Davis from the NFL Network, and that's going to conclude our show for tonight. But before we conclude tonight's show, Raphael, please tell us who's coming on tomorrow's show.
Tomorrow we have a 3-hour show. Getting back to we had 2 3-hour shows this week, right? Yesterday was a 3-hour show. Tomorrow we'll start with David Dobin, who is our New York baseball insider. We'll talk Mets, Yankees, probably Red Sox as well. At 10:30, Ari Bluestein, our Philadelphia insider. At 11, a very special guest, John Kincaid, who has a national show on ESPN Radio that's broadcast in every ESPN radio station in the United States, so that's going to be great. 11:30, Tzvi Tversky to talk about the slam editor, that is, to talk about the NBA playoffs. There's going to be some good games tonight. 12, Roxy from ESPN, Roxy Bernstein, West Coast ESPN guy. And then a special treat at 12:30, Rich Herrera from Sirius XM Radio.
All right, great
so
stuff.
Big show tomorrow.
Absolutely. All right, I want to thank everyone who came on today's show. Clenari Carter, our Southern ISR correspondent. Jerry Coleman from Fox Sports in Baltimore. 7-time award winner Jim Williams from the Washington Examiner. And from the NFL Network, Charles Davis. Stay tuned for a great show tomorrow. But that's it for tonight. God bless and good night.